Hey there, my crafty friends. It's Christy over at Crafty Christy's Creations. And today we're going to work with rhinestones and we're going to put it on a sweatshirt. So stay tuned for all the fun. So here is my flock vinyl. And it's different than your normal vinyl. It has the feel of like what's inside your jewelry box. And I bought a pack of some 12 by 12 sheets on Amazon, and it came with also the Hot Fix transfer tape to go with it, and then it came with this little tool to help brush in the rhinestones. So it says it came with some suggestions for cut settings, but what I ended up doing is I used a blade of 10, a force of 33, speed of 2, and 2 passes. And it looks pretty good. I took the backing off and stuck it directly, this is pretty sticky, stuck it directly to my mat. And you can see some of the holes finally came out. We'll see as I peel it up here if I have to still sit here and poke out some of these holes. We'll take the little extra off the edges here. And we'll see this. So these first small pieces down here are what made up the leaf. And it took some of them, so I am gonna have to sit here and kind of poke these out. So I'll do that, and then we'll go ahead and peel them up, and then we'll go to the next part.
Do you find this helpful? Make sure you smash that like button and hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any future Silhouette Studio tutorials. Now let's jump back in where we left off.
Okay, I've got all of my designs weeded out. I went back and used a lot of firm pressure on them before I peeled them up, and they did end up peeling off a lot better. So burnished them really well, and then it worked much better, but I got all the holes empty. So now what we're going to do is you start one layer at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my bottom layer. So I'm going to move everything else here out of the way. These templates are made to be reusable, so you can just stick them down and restick. So I'm going to do the same color. This is the bottom of my thing full, and then since I'm going to do the same color, I decided to only cut out one of my leaves, but we'll go ahead and we'll stick this on there as well. Just want to make sure I have enough room. And then we'll do both of these first. Okay, so I've got that on there, and then for the bottom, so what I went and bought some, you need Hot Fix rhinestones, meaning these are going to be, you're going to apply them using your heat press to apply them to whatever material you want to do. These we're going to put on a shirt. So you want to make sure you get Hot Fix rhinestones, and these are the 3mm, so they're 10 SS in size, and I just picked them up from the Beadland shop on Amazon. And I've got quite a few different colors here, but we're gonna just use these 3 here. So the colors I've got champagne, lemon yellow, and orange. Again, these are the 10 SS, which is about 3mm, which is how we set up our template. So for the bottom, I think I'm gonna go ahead and use the champagne color for the bottom. I'm just gonna go ahead and pop these open. These packages come with 1,440 pieces. So sounds like a lot, so that's good. And that should be plenty to do our designs here. So it's easily gonna peel up off of this. So I've got it on this plastic protective layer here just to stick my template to, and then that gives me room on there to put in my rhinestones. So I'm gonna go ahead and just pour some rhinestones over my designs. And then we'll be brushing off whatever we don't use. So I pretty much just poured the entire package down, trying not to make a huge mess. And then I'm gonna try using this little tool here that they gave me to try to brush these in. The other way you can do it, if you don't like this, a lot of people recommend using a sponge. So I'm just lightly going over. You're just gonna do this in small pieces, and this is just gonna get those rhinestones in to the holes the correct direction. This is actually really fun and really therapeutic to just sit here and brush these through. Also, if you don't want to wait around for all of these to fall into the hole, you can certainly use a pair of tweezers and place them in as well. But this seems to be working pretty well. Just got a few spots here that need some rhinestones. And I'm just pressing really lightly. Got one pesky hole right there. All right, that one we might place by hand. And then I'm gonna just brush all of my extras off of my design. Okay, I've got that brushed pretty well. And then for this last little hole here, I'm just gonna use a pair of tweezers. I'm gonna pick up a gem, maybe, and then just set it right there in the hole. Okay, so, oh, and there's one more right here that we missed. All right, that part is done. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing over here with the bottom part of my leaf. I've got my little pile of gemstones on there, and I'm just kind of swishing those around. Trying really hard not to make a huge mess with them, but that's all right. They will easily scoot back up and put back into the package. So this is why you use this special flock. It's really easy to push those gems around, which is why this is why they recommend the flock. And again, that flock feels like the same kind of thing you put inside the inside of your jewelry box. Okay, I have all of that done. I'm just gonna sweep these beads up, put them back in the bag. Beads, rhinestones. Got my designs ready. This is the Hot Fix transfer tape. It's heat resistant. And with this, I believe it is shiny side up is how you want it. Oh, and you have to be careful. My beads, my rhinestones are falling out. Okay. So I am gonna cut a piece here that's gonna fit on here, and then I'm gonna cut a piece there to fit. And I want to kind of be mindful, the entire design is gonna fit on here, so I want to give myself enough space to fit everything. So I just need it, I'm gonna make it a little bit larger than my box, because remember, this weeding box that we put is gonna fit the entire design inside this box. So I am just gonna lay this over my flock, and then I'm just gonna make a little cut here so I know, and then I'm gonna cut this slightly larger than my flock. Okay, so that is the piece for that. And then I'm gonna do the same for my little piece here. I'm actually gonna cut this a little bit bigger. I'm gonna show you an easier way to do this. If you use a little bit more to go ahead and make a multi-layer, you want to cut your transfer a little bit larger, so that way you can kind of pick up one end and just set it over your design. All right, so let's start with this one. I'm gonna peel the backing. We don't need that. This is what we need. So the sticky side is what's gonna go down, and I just moved a lot of my beads. Let me set that there. So these rhinestones really are just setting in there. I believe I read that the ones that I got, well, it says 3 millimeters. I believe they're technically like 2.8, so they're a little bit large for these holes, but you also need them a little bit large. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to get them to sit in there. So there needs to be a little wiggle room inside these spots for them to go. So this is why you try not to do all of your other work right on top of your rhinestones when you've put them in your template. Okay, nothing else seems to have moved. The rest looks good. This is my sticky piece. This can also get reused a few times, so that's always good. And this is kind of a one-time shot here. I'm gonna make it a little bit over the edge, and then I'm gonna start on my right side. And it's a one-time shot, and I goofed it up. So it picked up some of those, it picked up some of these from the bottom. And so what I can do, I can pick up all of these rhinestones. Some of these flipped and some didn't pick up. So I'm gonna peel off some of these ones that flipped. All right, well, when it doesn't work out, what you do is you take your little scraper tool and you scrape your rhinestones off of there and fling them all around, and then we're gonna re-put them in our design and start over. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I will be back. I've got my design re-put together. I'm gonna use this same piece of Hot Fix, and I'm gonna keep it nice and taut, hold it above my design here, and then slowly set it down, and then press everything. I've got a little bit of an edge here that I can use to help hold that on there. Unfortunately, this design was so large that it was almost the size of the 12 by 12 sheet. So that doesn't give me a lot of room. These sheets are also 12 by 12 with the Hot Fix. So now that I've rubbed that on there really well, I'm gonna go ahead and peel up my Hot Fix nice and slow. And you can see it's peeling those rhinestones right out of the design. And if it doesn't, you can just set them back down and try again. Really press those in there. Got one stubborn one that doesn't want to go. Shoot. There we go. Got a couple of stubborn ones here that didn't want to pick up. So I'm just slowly pressing back over those ones to try to pick up those stubborn rhinestones. Okay. So I'm just being really slow to carefully pull this out. They're really just holding on there on like the very top of the rhinestone. So there's not a lot of surface area for it to hold on to, which is part of why some are a little bit difficult. Okay, I'm to the edge of my design here. And now what I'm going to do is bring in my next template. So I've got my next template here, and because we made the box the same size, I'm going to go ahead and just line up the edge on this side. And I want to try to line that up as perfect as I can. So that looks good. Now that I've got that lined up kind of perfectly, what I can do is just kind of stand it here on the edge. Try to peel up this edge. Let's see, if I line that up there, I think we're better off just doing it on this end. So I'm going to peel this back. Peel this edge. Kind of know where this needs to be. So I've got the underneath edge laid out. And then what I can do is come over here with this edge, line that up right there. And basically I'm just kind of peeling one and laying the other one down. This is so that way because I'm using the same piece of transfer and it's a little bit larger than our design, right? So I want to make sure that I have it laying perfectly in the exact same spot over my second layer. So that way the rhinestones are going to line up perfectly. So I'm going to leave it like that. I've got my first color over here, and then for my second color, I'm going to use the yellow. I'm not going to mess with this, but I can. I'm going to set this one here. And I'm just going to go ahead and use my yellow and fill in this, and then we'll do this one here in a minute. So the hard part is going to be to not get any of the beads, or I'm sorry, I keep calling them beads, get any of the rhinestones on that transfer while I do this. All right, let's try with just that many, trying not to make a huge mess. And again, I'm just gonna brush these in. The more room you have around your design with this material, the easier it's gonna be to really brush these in. I didn't give myself a ton of extra because I wanted to save my material, but it's definitely a lot easier to do this when you have more flock to kind of roll over with my little tool here, because it's a lot more of a smooth surface. But these are pretty easy to put in here. I haven't found it difficult yet. And I think some of that is just the sizing of the hole and then the size of the rhinestone. It gives it just enough space to easily fall into these holes, which is why this brushing is really easy to do. And then I've been able really to do just with kind of the edge of my brush, flip these over and kind of just set them in a few if I need to. A few rhinestones to just set them in those areas that don't have any, like right here. Pick up these few, try to get them back on the flock. And then I can just kind of flip these over into the holes. I'm sure this is not real fun to watch, but this is part of it. You got to get all the holes filled. And then once you do that, then you can brush away the extra. I think when this design is done, I think it's going to look really awesome, especially with these beautiful fall colors. All right, that's coming along. And I'm just really lightly pressing. I'm not even really pressing. I'm just kind of scraping this tool across the top of the flock. To just let these gems fall in. And the hard part is to just like not want to try to dig with this and just kind of roll it over the top, because if you push down too much, I think I'm just pulling these rhinestones right out of their template. Okay, that layer is done. I'm just going to move all of these extras out of the way so they don't get stuck on my transfer. I'm just double checking. I make sure I've got some in all the holes. And now, since I've got it kind of hinged on the edge here, we're going to go ahead and just see, and we're not quite perfect on there. So what I'm gonna do is try to line up, because this is a nice straight design, I'm just gonna try to line up my letters, and I'm just gonna try to line them up the best I can without goofing everything up. Okay, that looks good there. Laying everything down and pressing. So even with the hinge, because I just don't have enough space on my hinge for this design, it was pretty easy because they're nice straight letters for me to just lay them down and do it that way. Okay, so now I'm just gonna go nice and slow and pick this edge up. And these ones are coming very nicely. And we're gonna peel all the way off the edge there. Okay, so we're gonna try something different this time. I'm gonna take the last layer and I'm just gonna set it right on top. So I'm gonna line up the edges. Oh, and it's upside down. And I know it's upside down because as I went to go lay it down, some of the holes were showing through, which told me I wasn't doing it in the right spot. So I'm going to try it this way. I'm going to try to just line up the edges here and make them as perfectly aligned as I can. I should still have the same amount of depth in my flock. Those are perfectly lined up. So now what I should be able to do is just come in with my third layer. This is still sitting in the exact same spot. I'm going to come in with my third layer, which is the orange. And I'm just going to lay those right on top of there. I can see there's a couple little holes here that need little cleaning up. Let's see how this works. I'm just going to pull this back. And I know it doesn't take a lot of these gems, rhinestones. So I'm just going to put a few on here and just see how we do. It's definitely harder to tell where my rhinestones are when the background is the same color as the holes in the rhinestone. So that definitely makes it a little bit more difficult. But I know doing it this way, things are going to be lined up much better. And having them lined up better is more important than being able to see what I'm doing. All right, that was definitely a little harder because I couldn't really tell where the holes were. But I've got the top of that done. And now if I go ahead and lay this back across, what color was that? Oh, that one fell back off. But now as I go to lay this back across, you can see they look like they're gonna fit very nicely together. I'm just making sure everything's lined up really well. And then we can go ahead and press them down. And then it looks like I had one of the champagne ones that fell off, which when I get this flip back over, I can go ahead and stick that back down where it belongs. All right, let's see how that works. Okay, awesome. I can see I've got a few that aren't quite stuck down the right direction. I'm just gonna come over here and just set them down so they're sitting the right way. I'm gonna use my tweezers and set this one rhinestone back. So now I have to set it upside down to make it sit correctly where it needs to go. Okay, that was easy enough. All right, I've got that one done. I can go ahead and peel my entire piece back. Oh, and that one rhinestone moved again, but there is our design. I think it's gonna look really awesome when we put it on a shirt. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay this up here. Gotta fix that one pesky rhinestone again. And then we'll go ahead and pick up our, actually we can lay these, just stick this one right here. I'm gonna fix this one little rhinestone again. See if I can scoot it back where it belongs. Hopefully it can just stick there long enough to lay it on a shirt. Okay. And then we're gonna go through the same process. So I've got my leaf piece started here. I really liked just picking up and laying the next layer right on top of it, so that worked well. So I've got my transfer here that's a little bit larger, so I can really make a nice little hinge here to pick this up. So I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I've got enough. That looks great. Really, I've got a hinge kind of on all around, but I'll go ahead and set that down. I'm gonna press this hinge down really well and then press those on really well. My hinge looks great. Let's see if I can get this kind of better place for you to see. Okay, that looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and pick this up. So again, this is that champagne color that we started with for the bottom. All right, those pulled out really nicely. And now with this hinge, I've got enough room that I can really pull this further away, so I don't have to worry quite so much, except I just pulled it right into a pile of rhinestones. This is what happens when you don't clean your workstation before you play with more. And this one little rhinestone needs to lay flat. Okay, let me try to move this pile over until we're ready for it. Okay, so I've got this pulled back nicely. A couple of these rhinestones need to get kind of flattened back out. All right, that looks fantastic. So now, again, I'm just gonna lay this next layer right on top of this current layer. Because my squares are the exact same size, this is gonna work well. I'm gonna make these corners, make sure they're nice and flush. Okay, that looks fantastic. I know, again, it's hard to tell the coloring in between, but none of my previous layer holes are showing up. So those are all covered. So I only have this layer's holes that are showing. And then I've got all of my yellow ones here that I'm just gonna try to pick up and sprinkle on here. And I'm trying to just sprinkle more than I need so that I've got room to move these around. Okay, that looks good. And then again, I'm just gonna lightly, I'm barely picking this up, just kind of scraping it lightly across the top, just enough to move these around. Some of them are falling into the holes kind of upside down where the black side is up. So those I'm gonna kind of pull out of the hole, and then I'll try to replace them with ones going the right direction. And some of these I just kind of push in, they're close to where they need to be, and I can just kind of shove them in. Again, this is just a little tedious, some of it, to do the work, but I think the end result is totally worth it. Okay, I think all of those are supposed to be there. All right, so now with the hinge on here, it's just gonna make it so much easier. I'm still gonna wanna try to pull this pretty taut. I'm looking at the spacing here as I'm laying things down, making sure that looks good, and then I'll go ahead and press. All All right, that looks fantastic. We'll go ahead and peel that layer up. Nice and slowly. It looks like we got all the rhinestones. That last one, there we go. All right, again, I'm gonna peel that to give some extra space there. And now we will lay our last template right on top. Uh-oh, there we go. Okay, so again, I'm gonna line up these corners, making sure those are nice and flush. That looks great. And making sure none of my extra middle pieces, no other holes are showing other than what I want on the red. So that looks good, or I'm sorry, on the orange. And I'm gonna go ahead and bring in my orange rhinestones. Okay, we've got all of the holes filled in. We'll just move these out of the way. All right, so once again, last time here, those all look good. This one needs to move in just a little bit. Okay. Actually, I've got a few extras on here. Definitely take the time to make sure everything looks good before you lay this down, because like I showed you before, if you lay it down and you goof it up, you have to start all over. So I'm just gonna bring that edge back in, looking at my gap here, and I've already picked some up, so I guess I am stuck with it. I'm just gonna press those down. It actually looks really good. With the hinge method, when you have lots of extra room over here, it's really easy to layer these on top of each other to get them all set up. All right, I've got those pressed down really well. I'm just gonna peel this back, make sure I've got all my rhinestones. Beautiful. Okay, these look great. I am gonna go ahead and clean everything up and get the shirt in here, and then we'll start applying to the shirt. Okay, so here is the black sweatshirt that I'm gonna be using. And I know it looks kind of silly on here. It's not laying on here fantastically, but I'm gonna use kind of the split here as the center of my shirt. And then we're gonna do our design kind of accordingly. So I am just lint rolling, get all the dust off. That looks good. And then I've got my heat press here, and I'm just gonna do a little, just kind of a quick setup to just try to get all the moisture out of my shirt, and then also to just get it kind of pre-warmed up so everything sticks nicely. And also to get the wrinkles out so it'll lay nice and flat here. I'm just going around, pressing this pretty well. Okay, I like the way that looks. I think we're set up well here. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab my design. So I've got my word thankful, and then I also have my leaf, and I just went ahead and put them kind of where I wanted, predetermined. And then I'm just gonna take kind of the top edge here and lay it, typically the N would be the center, but because I've got this leaf, I'm gonna switch over and make kind of the in-between the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 9 letters, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So right between the A and the N. I need to scoot over a little bit more, just trying to eyeball so that things look symmetrical. And I'm just gonna lay it down right there. So I went with kind of the middle of the A as the center. And I tried to line it up so that we kind of end symmetrically on the edges here. I'm still above the armpit, so I don't have to worry so much about that. I think that looks pretty good. I've got my one little spot there that keeps getting goofed up, my one little gem. Let's see if I can't just... So the reason I'm having so much trouble with this one is because I had to redo everything. I used the same piece here and it's just kind of goofed up a little bit. I will not be reusing this piece. Okay, that is in the right spot. Everything else looks good. I've got my heat press set up to 335 degrees and 15 seconds. And I'm gonna have to use some medium to firm pressure here. I'm gonna lay this on top just to protect everything. And I'm just gonna start over on the edge. We'll hit there, we'll kind of hit the center and then hit the other edge here and hope that that is enough. So I'm gonna start over here, pressing down and hitting go. So I'm holding firm pressure, again, 335 degrees for 15 seconds. All right, we'll go ahead and I can see where that pressed. I'm gonna overlap just a little bit and we're gonna hit again. All right, we'll scoot over one more time and actually don't have any more room on my cord, so I'm gonna scoot my project over. We'll overlap a little bit and we'll hit one more. Okay, go ahead and scoot this back to the center. Get this put back up there. All right, and we'll go ahead and take a look at everything. Looks pretty good. This is doubled because I cut some of the transfer around the T to make room, so I didn't end up cutting. I tried to peel this off and it was really stuck on there, so I just left it. We'll see when I peel this up if those are really stuck down, or we may have to hit that spot again. And looks like they're still coming up, so we'll go ahead. I'm gonna cover it back up again and we'll do another 15 seconds. And then we'll go ahead and check it again. That looks pretty good. We'll see. Still not stuck down. Okay. Well, I am gonna just continue hitting this 15 seconds at a time until they don't pick up. So we'll see how many times we have to do this. All right, it is all done. I did, I think 4, maybe 5 times I hit it with the 335 degrees with 15 seconds. On the last time, I went ahead and took off my cover sheet and just went straight to the hot fix transfer. And I do kind of wonder if maybe I should have just done that all along instead of covering it up. I did have, looks like one gem that moved at some point. I kind of didn't maybe pick up quite right and scooted instead with my heat press. So I've got one little gem that moved and they appear to be stuck pretty well. I tried to kind of pick at it to see if I could get it to scoot back over and retry, but I think this is tacked down really well. We'll see how it holds up in the wash, but there you have it. That is our tri-colored rhinestone design. Well, what do you think? Turned out great, didn't it? I think I eyeballed that just right for placement here. And I love the tri-colored look. It is perfect to wear for fall, and I can't wait to show it off while I'm out and about.